Right now, something is happening in the Persian Gulf that most people don't fully understand. A strip of water, 34 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, is threatening to shake the entire global economy. Not because of what it contains, because of what passes through it. 20% of the world's entire oil supply, every single day, through one narrow strait, and almost none of it has anywhere else to go. The world runs on oil. That is not a controversial statement. It is a fact of the global economy. Oil heats homes, powers factories, moves aeroplanes, makes fertilizer. The supply chain for that oil looks simple from the outside. It is drilled from the ground, loaded onto tankers, and shipped to refineries around the world. What most people never think about is where those tankers go. Here is what most people don't realize. 8 countries border the Persian Gulf. Between them, they hold some of the largest oil reserves on Earth: Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, Iran. But almost all of that oil, to reach Asia, Europe, or anywhere else in the world, must exit through a single passage, 34 kilometers wide, flanked on one side by Iran, one narrow strait, 20% of global oil supply, with almost no backup. The Strait of Hormuz sits between Iran to the north and Oman to the south. At its narrowest, it is 34 kilometers across. Through that gap flows approximately 20 million barrels of oil every single day. 84% of the oil passing through the strait goes to Asian markets: China, India, Japan, South Korea. These are the manufacturing engines of the global economy, and they depend almost entirely on oil from this one channel. Surely there are other routes. If the strait is blocked, ships can go around. The alternative is sailing around the Cape of Good Hope. That route adds thousands of kilometers, weeks of additional transit time. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have pipelines that bypass the strait, carrying around 6 to 7 million barrels per day. Combined, they carry less than a third of what normally flows through the strait. They are a pressure valve, not a solution. Here is what makes the Strait of Hormuz different. Most critical systems have redundancy built in, backup routes, emergency reserves. The Strait of Hormuz has almost none of that. The world didn't build the alternatives, because for decades, the oil flowed freely. The global oil infrastructure was designed around the assumption of open sea lanes. Pipelines were expensive. The world quietly made a choice to accept the dependency. Gulf oil production grew, and the strait became more critical every decade. Today, the world moves roughly 20 million barrels a day through the strait. The maximum bypass capacity is around 6 to 7 million. It would take a decade of construction and hundreds of billions in investment to meaningfully change that ratio. In early 2026, the world found out what happens when the strait closes. Within days, Brent crude oil futures surged 64%. Physical oil cargoes traded as high as $150 per barrel at the peak. Over 2,000 ships were stranded. Fuel shortages spread across Asia. Countries began rationing. And because the strait carries not just oil but fertilizers and industrial chemicals, the disruption spread well beyond energy markets. The global economy has no backup. There is a pattern to how the world discovers its hidden dependencies. Not when systems are working, but when they break. For decades, oil flowed without interruption. The world chose convenience over resilience, and a 34-kilometer corridor became the most important waterway on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz is a structural problem, a dependency built over decades. The world needed cheap oil, and the oil happened to be in the Gulf. That is a very different kind of power. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe.